Yeah. What would be the greatest way that I could experience this unlimitedness that I pray about every day?
Yeah, just enjoy it, my dear friend. You see, you can't put it in a bottle, and you can't give it a name. Ultimately, part of the plan as you grow into greater and greater love is as you are on a quest for love, suddenly you become that, and no longer are you seeking it, but you're just the full expression of it.
Awesome. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing about your energy is that I could always tell that there's one thing about my work in the world, and I feel like from what I've kind of been told and the way that my energy kind of behaves in the world is that, my work is ultimately to help bring a practical brand of spirituality to the masses. And so what I attempt to do is to align with people who are aligned with love, and to be able to create conversations where we could just broaden our understanding for this really inner dynamics of what love truly is, not being necessarily just a relationship, but it's a frequency. It's a relationship with everything. It is the birthplace from which everything comes. And so what I would say is somebody like yourself who truly holds this like divine unconditional love, I tend to be drawn to people who are really in a space of just minimal distortion and who aren't intellectualizing their spirituality, but they're embodying their spirituality. And I know there's a lot of folks who are on the path who, at a certain point, we are intellectualizing it, and it's kind of a part of our identity. But then there's a cliff that you take or you jump off of ultimately if you go deep enough, right? Where the intellectualization of your identity transforms into the embodiment of this, what I call like feeling consciousness. And it's clear to me that you operate from that space of feeling consciousness, where it's not, spirituality isn't your identity. It's who you are. It's what you are. You realize that you are love, that we are love. And then you try to live your life in such a way that's in alignment with that love consistently. And so that's why I wanted to reach out and have a conversation with you, because, when I was starting my transformational experience in 2013, I met you shortly after that somewhere on Facebook, and then I think we did an internet radio show in 2015 together. And this just feels like 12 years from my personal experience of awakening the Kundalini energy inside of me, that it's just a perfect time for us, I think, to just really have this conversation. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Everything that you emphasized, I literally got chills and I have tears in my eyes because, I do like many self-reflections, and it always comes back to like, you are love. That's it. I'm like Christ consciousness. That's why on my Facebook, when it says my profile, it says pure embodiment of Christ consciousness. And that's what I am. I am purity of love, purity of God, purity of Christ. And that's what I'm here to bring, like you say. That's why it's super interesting. And like, I'm so grateful in my heart that you're able to recognize it, because so many people do not. They don't understand what they see, and then they put all kinds of labels on it. And then like my life has been a very long journey of loneliness, basically, because very few people get us.
Yeah, that's right. And I always like to say that God recognizes God, and that in truth, Christ has become an idealization of what is, but the reality is that the majority of population, folks like us, are walking with Christ energy in the everyday life, and nobody even recognizes it because they don't have the tools internally to be able to recognize that frequency yet in their own path. And that's fine. That's part of what we're here to do, to really ground a practical, tangible example, if you will, of that love. And hopefully little by little, the world will transform. Now, 1 minute, I'm going to change my chairs because this is a squeaky chair and I don't want to have all that squeaky. So hold on a minute.
Okay.
So this year, and I just kind of like dabble into numerology just a little bit, just enough to be kind of curious about it. But I know this is a universal 9 year. And it's also a personal 9 year for me as well. So it's like a closing of a cycle for Earth, in terms of, periods of 10 years of movement, of change, of growth. And so it's kind of interesting that my birth date is also aligned with the universal day, year it is the same. We're both 9. So I don't know. It's interesting because, when I met you, I knew nothing about the concept of twin flames. I knew nothing about that concept. But what I was beginning to experience was that, I had told this story before, but I was asking myself when I was a 22-year-old kid at work, how I could find this inner peace that I'd sought since I was a child. And it was the first time I heard one of my spirit guides, I believe her name is Harmony. She said, "Give your life to God." And I laughed because I was like, how am I going to give my life to God? Right. So I went on this profound journey for, 12 years, figuring out what it means to give my life to God. And sure enough, my energy started rising around 2011, 2012, into 2011, I started hearing frequency in my head. And then it's interesting because this was when Neptune was actually starting to move into Pisces, which is its home planet in terms of that unconscious humanitarian, collective unconscious spirituality. And so, the end of the Mayan calendar into 2013, I was working at a manufacturing facility since 99, and I was a assistant chief engineer. I was a maintenance manager at this plant. And, I'd been married for 11 or 12 years and, raising a bunch of kids, managing a really intense work environment, around the clock manufacturing facility. So I had a lot of pressure on me. And, but at the same time, all these years I was doing this work as a mystic. I was surrendering my life to God. I was opening my heart. I was weeding through my limiting belief systems, and slowly but surely I noticed my mind would become more and more and more and more silent. And so we had this big hiring because we were expanding the bakery that I worked at, and we were adding an additional line. So we went from this kind of small town kind of vibe, 35, 40 employees to, 90 or 100 employees. And I came across this young woman who was quite a bit younger than me. She was 21, I was 34. And it's funny, I was sitting talking to the production manager, and she had come in and she was trying to collect her check. And I remember thinking to myself that she's going to be the end of me, whatever that meant. I didn't know, but slowly but surely, there was something about this connection. And when I spoke to her, and we had many conversations over that next 2 or 3 months, and when I spoke to her, I could feel her emotions in her body and my body. Like I could feel how I made her feel inside of me. And it was the strangest thing because I'd never felt like I'd ever been seen before by anybody. Like you said, this is a very lonely path. And she, even if she didn't really see me completely, she felt me, and I felt her inside of my body. And it blew my mind. I didn't understand. Now the thing was, I was on this path to putting on the mind of Christ. That was literally a few months after being told to give my life to God, I came across a book by Jim Marion called Putting on the Mind of Christ. And that was my goal. I was going to put on the mind of Christ. And so over the years, I set out to become the full expression of God's love in every single moment of my life, to be inspired by the love of God in every single moment of my life, and be a full expression of God's patience. And of course, I thought I achieved the inspirational, or I was starting to, and the love, but the patience part was really hard. And that was, I think, part of what this the divine feminine energy was here for. You know, she was a messenger of the divine in a way, in the sense that I was never on the path of Christ consciousness for the idea that there would be a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, that there would be a divine relationship. I was never in it for that. I never even knew that was possible. In fact, I just knew that I was here to be love, to become love itself, and to emanate that, and to walk that, that path, and to become the embodiment of that. But I never knew that there was a divinity piece between the masculine and feminine. And believe it or not, when it started opening up into me, I realized, well, the path actually was that I would have to learn to embody both my masculine and feminine energy. And so I had refined my masculine to such a point that my mind essentially became silent. But it wasn't that I didn't learn the true essence of God, or what I call the Divine Mother, Holy Spirit, as a feminine, creative, sexual life force. And so I didn't realize that God was that feminine energy until that Kundalini opened up within me. And the reason that she showed up was because she helped me open up my root chakra and feel safe for the first time in my life. I was up in the upper realms of Christ consciousness, but my root didn't feel safe on earth. I didn't feel safe here. I didn't feel like I belonged here. I didn't feel understood. And she saw me, and I felt her inside of me, and it made me feel safe. And it made me realize that, okay, divine love is possible and available, and I deserve that love.
Yeah.
And fast forward 12 years, and I'm not in that relationship, and, and things got messy and things got ugly, and she went on her way, and, got into another relationship very shortly after that. And I think she's married with maybe a kid or two, a couple kids. I mean, I can feel when she has kids. So, so I don't know what I'm trying to say is that it's not really about the relationship. It's about becoming love.
Yes. Yes. It's a hard lesson, and a long lesson, but yes, exactly.
And so I brought you here because I know you have a kind of a different spin on this experience, and I'm not here to say that twin flames are real per se. I'm not here to say that there's only two sides of the coin from God. I'm not here to say that that's the complete reality. What I'm here to say is I had a very, very profound experience. And I would say that the connection with this human being, whether or not she's from the Palladian star system like me, and there was a resonance and frequency at the core soul level that made me feel like home, or, she was a soulmate from a past life, and we were, having to heal some of this distortion and this wounding and this pain, whatever. Or, so I'm not married to the twin flame, the generic framework that, popular spiritual culture tries to create. But what I'm here to say and share with people is just my experience, and my experience was profound. It was the Garden of Eden. It was God looking at God. That's how it felt. Yeah. For years, I didn't experience time normally. It took me a solid 8 to 9 years to really ground this back into a personality.
Yeah, because that was profound and it happened so quickly.
Yeah, and I had been preparing so long to clear out my vehicle. So when I opened up that channel, that I became a conduit for God. And it was so overwhelming for my body. It was so overwhelming for everything, because when God opened up, my mind went completely silent. I looked in the mirror and all I saw was God. And it was fucking frightening. It was the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced in my life. It was terrifying for years to know that we are God, and that not just know it intellectually, but to embody that energy just blazing through your body.
Yeah, a lot of people are afraid of it, or they don't recognize it.
Yeah. Let me get some tissue, and then I'd like to hear about your story, if you don't mind. Give me a second.
Okay.
So tell us about you. We want to hear.
Okay, so I was celibate for 12 years after my son's dad and I separated. He was like a crack addict for 25 years. And he was verbally and emotionally abusive. So that at that point in time, I knew that I had a lot of healing to do. Not only him, but all the past relationships with men before that, because I didn't love myself enough. Going back to your whole love thing. Yeah, I was in each relationship what they wanted me to be, to dress a certain way or to be a certain way. Or my son's dad used to call me eye candy, so it took 12 years of deep search, like literally around my house. I am loved by my higher power. I had printed out pictures all over the place. So every day I woke up, I knew that God loved me, and then Jesus, like I knew he carried me so many times, from my son and I being homeless twice because my son's dad like kicked us out and we had to go to homeless shelter. But anyway, so I was just on Facebook scrolling and I got this request from this guy, right? And it was from Germany. And at that point in time, I did not accept anyone on Facebook that I did not know in person. So I was like, very like, I don't know. But then he had in his profile picture, it wasn't a picture of him, the Galactic Federation of Light picture, which somehow subconsciously I recognized. So I thought to myself, okay, well, we can just be friends. I will accept that. Well, within accepting that, we started talking on Messenger and we talked 6 hours nonstop about religion, about spirituality, about emotions, about intellect. And we just connected. And I've never in my life had something that you speak nonstop for 6 hours. So that was just like, that was just crazy. And then I think like 3 weeks after that, he posted on Facebook that like we're engaged, literally. And you know what? It didn't even phase me at all. So within 1 year, I flew out to Germany, and my boss was freaking out. Like, oh, you're gonna get sold to sex slavery, or they're gonna kidnap you. All kinds of drama and fear mongering. And I was like,
Right.
no, something's deep here. Something like, wow, like I need to check this out. So when I met him and we met at the hotel, like literally when we met face to face, it was like we never left.
Right.
Past lives, same soul family, which I think is Arcturian, but I think we lived in many star systems. It was like we just took when we left off. It was like an instant connection. There was no silences, there was no questioning, there was no nothing. It was an
Wow.
instant, pure connection. And he's taught me so much about love because I thought I experienced love before, but I was never loved the way I'm meant supposed to love a woman. I was never like that. He feels when I'm sad. He calls, like you said, he happens to just call or check on me when something's going wrong.
Yeah.
We hold hands. He kisses my hand. It's like he brought a whole new level of unconditional love that I have not known ever in this life.
Right. Yeah.
So that's basically our connection. And from both sides, we had, oh my God, like what's wrong with you? Can't you find somebody in your own country? His friends were saying that. And then my people were saying, "Oh my God, there's 23-year old age difference. He's 23 years younger." But I love is love, like unconditional love. God put him in my life for whatever reason. So my mother is saying, "Oh, when you turn whatever age, she's gonna find someone half your age." And I said, "You know what, Mom? If it only lasts 5 years, 7 years, or 10 years, I will embody that experience, that pure love, that unconditional love, that putting me like a queen. You know what I mean? We treat each other like equally and making me realize a lot of things about God and just loving me for just the way I am, not requesting or requiring anything. Then I'll take it." And then he has to
Yeah.
deal with, oh my God, maybe she's FBI. Why is she coming all the way from America for you? It was pretty hilarious at some
Yeah.
points in our lives.
Yeah. Well, and that's when you recognize the divinity in somebody and you operate from that space of that soul level. And that was the one thing she said to me. We really haven't had very many conversations after that. We met in March or April 2013, and then the Kundalini was fully open by summer of 2013. And then I left my 16-year relationship in June of 2013, and then it became drama after that because we got dropped in the ocean of consciousness and having to deal with the whole divorce thing, and then her feeling like somehow she had broken up a family, which she didn't understand that she was just a catalyst for God because I was going on my divine mission to heal my soul and ultimately stepping into my role as an artist and a teacher in the world. And so she didn't, at the time, you have to weed through the ego level stuff. And so her ego was probably, she was more ego focused than me because she was a lot younger. I had been on the spiritual path for, you know, 15 years or something like that. And she was just a kid and she didn't understand that. So I had to, and then trying to deal with all of that masculine unhealed energy, and, thinking, feeling like somebody's yours, like kind of, sort of, but I mean, it's just like, there's so much pain and there's so much distortion and so much when you have that divine energy just going through you, but you still are a human being ultimately, and human beings have human problems. And, what was I saying? Yeah, just remember having a conversation at Starbucks with her, and she says, nobody ever told me. She said, when you told me I have a beautiful soul, nobody's ever told me that. And we probably talked for 45 minutes, and that was, I think that was the end of 2014. And then 6 months later, I saw that she had messaged me on Facebook Messenger, and kind of just gave me this whole speech that, that we had a lot of healing to do, and that we have a lot of wounds, and that we were never going to be in a relationship. And she didn't understand why I've been telling everybody as if we were in a real relationship. And so it was like a two-sided message. It was like, yeah, after we heal our wounds, she's kind of saying like there's something, but then at the same time, she's saying we're never going to be in a relationship ever in this life. And so it was kind of like and then, I couldn't accept your words, but now I can start to accept your words and your love. And I appreciate that. And you deserve somebody good. Just be patient and she'll come eventually, blah, blah, blah. So it was a really profound message, but that's kind of how it closed. But anyway, during that conversation at Starbucks, there was a lot of different things. She said she thought I was crazy. I said, we have to understand, I grew up with a mom who was manic depressant and who had mental breakdowns her whole life. And, she was in darkness when I was in her womb. And so I feel deeply that feminine wounding inside of my being. And I know what mental health, mental health looks like. I know when people are struggling with that because I have a deep understanding for that. And it's not that I'm crazy. I'm just profoundly aware. And I'm so aware that when that energy is going through, it seemed, because I was dealing with the symbolism of God. It was opening up to the God mind, and it was just so fucking much. And she was living inside of me, and it didn't make sense. And she didn't understand it. I mean, I'm sure she's maybe starting to understand it now, but I was just trying to figure it out. But yet I just feel like the thing too is like, I feel like there's, I don't know if your experience is like that, but in terms of these dynamics, like there's one that might tend to be more spiritually focused and one's more materially focused. Do you have that dynamic in your situation, your relationship experience?
I don't know, because I'm not materialistically focused, and I don't think he's either.
Yeah.
So I think in ours, not so much.
Not so much. It's mutually kind of like a spiritually focused kind of thing. Or is there a certain gene?
Yeah, we're both servants of God. That's the way I feel like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, but is there more of a genius in one area than the other, internally versus externally?
So
Not necessarily either.
So he's probably like more creative, and I'm super independent.
Okay, I got you.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
he's like, oh, he makes music and beats, and like he's always like going down to the homeless and giving them money, or
Yeah.
helping people with like whatever mental or emotional issues, like wounding. So he goes for that and takes on that emotion and tries to uplift them, which
Wow.
happens to me and you, I'm sure too. I mean, like literally people I don't know where in an elevator will spill their guts to me, and I'll be like, listen, the right person will come at the right time. When you vibrate on the pure love frequency, and you don't have certain attachments or ideas of they have to have from A to Z, they have to meet all these requirements. Because
Sure.
I wasn't looking for anything, nothing. Like I said, celibate for 12 years, dating, nothing, didn't interest me. Men didn't interest me. I was a single
Mm.
mother. I had to take care of my son, and I had to keep it together. And I was very focused on healing myself, number one, and taking care of my son, making sure I provided correct love and guidance for him and taught him unconditional love.
Right. And what is your experience with the Kundalini energy?
Like I'm not as it hasn't been as profound as for you. I feel like mine must. I can't really speak about like experiences like that. One time, and only because my friends who do Reiki told me that's what happened, was like my body just locked. I couldn't move. I was on a bed for 3 hours crying with
Mm.
Nidal on Skype because I couldn't move
Mm.
and it hurt so bad. And a bunch of people on Facebook messaged me and they're like, "You like releasing or healing the whole earth." Like they're like, "Thank you for doing that." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" But I had to
Right.
contact my Reiki friend from Canada, and she had to heal me long distance because I literally could not move for like hours. Whatever energy
Wow.
sent me, she unlocked me. I
Wow.
was on the bed like this. I couldn't go to the bathroom or nothing. It was just completely locked.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
definitely not as profound as yours, Michael, because I don't even like that. Yours is just like no words, like insane.
Yeah. It was
To
so
witness
fucking
like that
gnarly.
once is
It
crazy.
is so gnarly. It was so fucking gnarly. I couldn't even fathom. I personally experiencing that. I don't wish that on anybody.
Yeah, yeah,
And but I also think that it's possible, especially for the divine feminine, that you may have already unlocked that energy in a past life, and so you already bring it in, and you're already tapped into it from birth. And so part of what I think might have happened with me was that I actually coded myself to be more asleep when I was younger so that I could understand the human condition. And then I broke that seal in my mid 30s in order to really experience the profound contrast between, so I could be a better teacher, so I could really understand, okay, this is what it truly feels like to be
human.
sleepy,
Yeah,
and then this is what it truly feels like to hold Christ consciousness. And even my friend Summer Bacon, who I sent you that episode, she, similar to you, I think she was just been awake her whole life. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah. No, I read about that too, and I think that must be it. That really must be it. It's just connecting the dots, and I've had like couple powerful dreams, and in 2012 or 2011, I had a dream of the rainbow serpent, which is an aborigine symbol of
Mm.
like your creativity waking up and you being super connected to Mother Nature.
Right.
And so, just like actually 2 years ago, I went to Peru because I was guided by Mother Earth. All that is to go and do ayahuasca, which I was like, wow, like, okay. So, Nidal and I went both there, and I had a vision of a huge angel in front of me, and then I had a vision of like a black panther looking at me, and then me and having my eyes, and the shamans were there to interpret it, and they said you are super guided and connected to nature and God. So
Yeah.
that was like pretty profound for me. That's what I got out of it, is just made me more grounded and connected to nature and be more pure vessel for God and spirit to flow through me.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And well, and I was 34 before I got my first tattoo, and now I've probably got 30 or 40, but it's just to express the whole experience that I went through. And I have two Black Panthers tattoos on me, and
Yeah.
one says the Divine Mother underneath the panther. So
Yeah, I feel like Black Panther is definitely my spirit guide because it definitely came in a vision, and I always felt like that's my one of my spirit animals, and then the
right.
wolf,
Well,
and the wolf of
and
loneliness, Michael.
oh, the wolf of yeah, I have that on my belly. I have the wolf, the lion, and the horse. So the wolf is looking upward being the physical masculine portion of the self, and then the horse is going downward as the feminine, and then the lion in the middle is the actualized self, and then there's a dragon all around it.
Wow, that's incredible. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
So yeah, but I think everything in life is just symbolic, and I think if when the more we dive deeper into the nature of reality, we realize that the physical world is just a movie screen, and it's just a projection of the inner reality of the spiritual dimension. And so everything is symbolically tied, whether it's words or symbols or animals or colors or relationships. Everything is, I always like to say this is kind of weird. It's like a paradox, but everything is a reflection of everything,
Yeah,
meaning
yeah,
no
yeah,
matter where you go and what you do, you always bring yourself with you. And the way you behave at work is the way you behave in person. Who you are is who you are, and you can't run away from
exactly. You need to face it,
that.
feel yourself. Yeah, exactly. Like everything is like a fractal of the everything, the infinite in one fractal, like the wholeness of
Right. Yeah. It's like a holographic projection. It's like everything's in everything's in everything. And but yet it's like a portion of everything. And then, so no matter where you go, that everything you're just a portion of that everything.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's the way God created just patternization so that we could experience the physicality. In a lot of ways, I just see the physical realm is just a slowing down of divine frequency so that we can perceive ourselves as physical. And then we could be like creators on training wheels, meaning in the dream state, which is what I believe is kind of more of our normal home. As
Yes,
soon as you think, you create, right? But in physical earth, as soon as we think, we don't create, which is good because then it allows us to contemplate, it allows us to grow, it allows us to learn, it allows us to develop our the foundation of our identity and our personality and our character. And so manifestation in physical realm is a slowing down of frequency in such a way that we perceive life as being physical, but really it's just as spiritual as the non-physical. It's just that we've created this kind of playground of, we've just turned the dial down so that we could be, again, creators, God on training wheels, if you will.
yeah, yeah, 100%. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going back real quickly to Nidal's story, he told me
Mm-hmm.
the first time that I met him that he's in, and I saw him for 3 weeks in Germany, that he's
Mm.
gotten more love from me in 3 weeks than from his mother his entire life. So he had a lot of emotional wounding. He tried to kill himself in front of her twice. He's got scars on his wrist
Wow.
because she was very mean, and his stepfather as well, like basically putting food on the ground like a dog and just being very disrespectful. She When they lived in Tunisia before he moved to Germany, she put her cigarette butts in here. She like just extinguished the cigarette, and so he had so much trauma that I'm just like, even if I was gonna stay just in his life for 2 years, 1 year, whatever God
Right.
put me in his life for, whatever Christ wanted me to do,
Right.
he just said that I saved his life basically. Just like you're saying that the girl
Yeah.
reawakened you and just made you open to everything. He told me that I
Right.
saved his life. If I did not come into his life, he would not be here.
Right.
So that was truly profound. And then in return, he made me love myself, made me feel the energy come through me, made me more creative, made me, I don't know, like everything from A to Z. Just appreciate
Right.
life and appreciate who I am and what I have to deliver.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's the gift of the intensity of connection, of the mirroring of connection, of being able to look and see where we're still operating in our codependent patterns. And I think that that's one of the things that I learned, through her and our experiences was how I still depended as a man on the feminine energy to feel. And part of my experience of self-actualization was learning how to feel for myself, like truly feel and not use the feminine energy as a crutch for security. Because as men, we have a tendency to live in our intellect. And then
Yes.
we use our intellect as a way to avoid the emotional reality of how we truly feel. So we actually mask our feelings through our intellects, and then we use the feminine in our reality as a vehicle for feeling, rather than becoming our own vehicle for feeling. And so that's what kind of that activation helped me understand, was that a part of like learning how to, be fully self-actualized, was that I could source God and love and truth through my own being, and I could learn how to fill my cup and do it in such a way that I feel completely full and loved, and almost radically vulnerable, and not needing a relationship or a woman to allow me to experience the contrast of what I am as a creative being.
Yeah, so that I would say from my perspective, I was like the same as you, not needing a guy for the 12 years. I was filling my own cup, healing all my wounds from childhood to past lives. And another thing that happened with me and Nida was that he had a past life recollection from Egypt, of me and him living in Egypt, and he just lost his shit literally. All of a sudden, he started calling me the beat, the this, the that, like you cheating on me. I mean, it just went 180. And I had to like meditate and be like, what the heck is going on? And that was the answer that I got, was like that we had a past life in Egypt, and I actually left him, cheated on him, interesting enough, and went to work for the dark side. So
That's
that took
interesting.
a long time to heal, actually. And
In turn, and
unconditional love, to stand there and not just be like, oh my God, are you crazy? Like, let me just get out of this relationship. What the hell?
right. Right. Well, those are the two mechanisms that we use in terms of developing ourselves, in terms of being human personalities. They're two things that I've found are characteristic in human behavior and personal development, is that we have patterns of grasping, and we have patterns of resistance. And so traditionally we do two things. We either grasp onto things for safety, whether it's physical, material, mental, psychological, or we resist things behaviorally to avoid vulnerability. And part of learning how to hold the frequency of love and divinity and truth is practicing, is learning how to consistently be open and vulnerable, and to develop the relational and life skills, so that we can really navigate things in a very conscious way, in a very open way, and that we don't self-sabotage, and that we don't that we're able to be like, we make a true commitment to self-honesty, so we can see if we're avoiding our vulnerability, if we're avoiding that fear and that and that unknown, or if we are overly attaching to things because of that fear. And how do we learn how to little by little become more independent in holding that masculine and feminine energy in a greater harmony? And I really think that walk and that template is really the template, I believe, for some of the books that I want to write in the future, or I believe that I'm here to write, or I've been told, are to really provide that new template for how humanity on an individual level can walk in that new human, that human that embodies both the refined masculine and the virtue and the feminine, that sexual, creative, free life force. Like how can we hold both of those energies in greater actualization, and then be an example for others? So little by little, as more and more humans learn how to operate from that template of love, then the world and all the social structures and all of this like disharmony and all the illusions of separation will start to more and more crumble away. And I'm not saying that it's so many of us are doing that work, but I believe that that's kind of my individual work in this life, and for a lot of us as well, is like, how can we start planting seeds for
Yes.
folks to be able to see that there's so much more available, and it's not out there, it's right here, it's inside of you, it's in every moment that you choose love, or you choose vulnerability, or you choose authenticity, or you're able to be radically self-honest, and you're able to be accountable for who you are, and you're able to recognize when, okay, maybe you need to make a little adjustment in how you're showing up, so that you can show up more and more and more in love. And I think it's actually a very simple formula. It's really not complicated. And people people inherently are complicated people because they're not in congruence. Their head and their heart is not in unison. And so I believe as we move down that rabbit hole of consciousness, we become more complex because we live in a space that's kind of paradoxical, but we move away from being complicated because we're not stuck in our heads and we're not stuck, hiding from ourselves, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, see, that's when Idal taught me, too, is a lot of times he'd be like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? So he let me know like how I'm showing up and what I need to work on. So we are like the mirrors to each other, which is like why they call it twin flames, because twin flame journey, from my perspective, is a very hard journey. No, not everybody has one. And you signed up for this because it's super hard and you have a soul contract, or you came here to show others, lead others, and basically it's working on yourself. Twin flame journey is not like all roses and champagne, because like I said, like we've had a lot of disagreements. We had a lot of things that we had to work, that we mirrored to each other, and he'd be like, why are you doing this really hurts my feelings, and he like, and I had to think about it, step away and be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I will not do that again. So we had a lot of that back and forth reflection. And then on top of it, so we met in 2012 and we're still not together, like physically. So actually, when we both went to Peru in the jungle for 2 weeks, in the middle of a jungle, there was another couple there, and they literally started crying because they were separate too. One lives in US, one lives in Philippines. And they were like, oh my God, you guys are like an example for us, like that this can actually work. And when he tried coming to America, because he's a German citizen, but he was born in Tunisia, which is North Africa. He got profiled as being, and this is 2013, 2014, he got profiled as being of Arabic descent. So my son and I are waiting for him at the airport. No one's answering us. TSA saying they cannot talk to us. He gets handcuffed, put in jail, and put back on a flight to Germany.
Wow.
Yeah. That was profound. Like, I literally drove crying the whole entire time. I don't even know how I made it home. And I was just in disbelief because his stepfather at that point in time was a diplomat to Peru and Tunisia. And they treated him like nothing. And then that almost broke our relationship, because that was a very deep emotional wounding for him. He spent a couple hours in jail for nothing, and then got sent back home.
Right.
And he doesn't, particularly after this experience, want to come here because he doesn't want to experience that type of wounding again.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went to play the blame game. He was like blaming me. What could I have done differently? And it was rough. So the twin flame journey is not what people think it is. It's a lot of self-reflection, a lot of self-work, a lot of working together. Hey, how can I make myself better? Like, how can I do this better? Or how can we grow together as a couple and serve God better?
Right. Yeah, and I think that's kind of the dynamic is, there are relationships in life that, our intention is kind of, it's almost a codependent pattern where, you choose to partner up with somebody because it makes life easier. But,
Exactly.
But a divine relationship is more about, it's more about, you're not operating from the ego level. You're more operating from the soul level. And then from that soul level, there comes so much more messiness or responsibility or accountability, because as you become more and more self-aware, I always say with awareness comes responsibilities. And so the more aware we become, the more we realize that we have to kind of navigate life in such a way that it makes things that much more intense, if you will, especially if you're not you haven't quite learned how to navigate life in a completely congruent with your head and your heart. And I think that kind of just goes back to what I'm talking about, is like when you're operating on the ego level in a relationship that is kind of primarily codependent, you may not even be aware of those patterns of codependency or the ways that you compromise, or the ways that you dull down your energy, or the ways that you, in order to create like this almost like false sense of harmony. I almost feel like sometimes people who are operating on the ego level, you're continually creating like fake peace.
Yes.
And the reality of, whether you call it conscious relationships, twin flame connections, whatever you want to call it, moving from a space of fake peace to real peace, it's about getting in the dirt of life and love. And you have to look under the hood of your behaviors and of your thoughts. And you have to almost decode your own consciousness so that you can learn how to consistently operate from love and do it in such a way that can be harmonious, but authentically harmonious, not harmonious because you want to avoid certain things or you don't want to look at the whole picture.
1000%. Like, he cried so many times on Skype when we had conversations. He's like, I'm so sorry. Like, it's not okay for men to cry. And I would cry with him because I could feel him. Like you said, you could feel her. I could feel his emotions. Like, I would just be, when he'd start talking sometimes, or sometimes he makes beats and he plays some music and I just start bawling because there's so much emotion in that. Right. Whatever he was going through, he put into music, and it just instant.
Yeah, I understand. So that's interesting. So you met him around 2012. I had my experience in early 2013. So what are the reasons why you truly believe that you guys aren't in a physical relationship? Like, what is, on the deeper level, what is the lesson, or what is what's the meaning behind that specifically? You know what I mean? Fast forwarding is 2025. So
I feel like the message I keep consistently getting, which I don't love, is it's divine timing. Like, he's doing his work over there in Germany and I'm doing my work over here, whatever it's needed. We are looking forward to, like, we've been to Albania. Like, we're divinely guided different places to, like, do different work, I guess, just by being there or by showing kindness and love to other people. But we've been to, like, Albania. I've been to Germany 4 times. Last year we went to Croatia. We went to Peru. So I feel like the reason we're not yet, because maybe he has a little bit more work to do. That's how my soul feels, a little bit more. His mother's wounding is so deep. I feel like it's just taking a super long time. You know what I mean? So yeah. I feel that's part of it. And then also deciding where we want to live together.
Well, I think it's, go ahead.
I'm between, like, I fell in love with Croatia, their way of life. And it's between, like, Croatia and maybe Portugal. I'm not sure. But I'm not feeling that I'm going to be here. And from, like, the many meditations or tarot card readings or whatever, they're all saying the same thing. Like, I'm needed somewhere else for whatever reason.
I love
wherever
that.
God takes me, whatever Christ takes me, that's where I'm going to go.
Yeah. Well, I think that's great. And too, if you guys are traveling together, you're also like testing the waters in terms of holding that consistent space on a behavioral, on a surface level, to be able to know that you can manage that frequency or that love consistently on a day to day. So you're kind of like maybe taking more vacations and things together. So you're already kind of building that skill set as well. So you know what I mean? For what's to come, which is great. You know, God and love and truth and life is always supporting human beings. And sometimes people, you know, we want to feel victimized by life, but we have to understand that life is truly holding us. The divine is holding us, our guides, our family, our loved ones, the ones that passed over. Everybody's holding us and everybody's supporting us. And we're always being given the tools and the resources and the experiences and the little tweaks that we need to just get a little bit stronger, get a little bit more footing, and really allowing us to get into a space where, you know, we're preparing ourselves for what's next. You know, we're in that energetic alignment. Our divine timing it's that terminology. It's all the same, which is things have to be just this in order for this to then come. So it's just, you have to kind of be patient. And I also think that, you know, people like ourselves, you know, we're positioned on the grid for various reasons to hold space for love in different parts of the world. But also when times change and you can feel that. So you feel like maybe whatever you've been anchoring in where you're at on the East Coast for however long in your life, maybe it's slowly, it's starting to shift, and there will be a time when your purpose is to anchor in a new location on Earth, right?
Yeah, exactly. And just like one more thing about the relationship, because a lot of people probably would think another thing like, okay, like definitely not. But towards like the beginning of relationship, I don't know if it was like 2013 or 2014, he had such a damaged masculine perception of himself that he actually went to a prostitute for sex. Okay, because like, keep this in mind, we live in separate places.
Countries, yeah, different cultures completely.
Yes. So when he told me that and he was crying on the phone, I actually started crying because I thought to myself, how sad that you have to resort to that. So this is like what Christ consciousness to me is too. Well, speaking of Jesus and who was it, Mary Magdalene?
Yeah, that's the character. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like somebody told me that actually, random person at a healing session told me that I carry Mary Magdalene blood, which would go back to your whole perception of me, which that just bypassed my ego. I'm like, wow, well, that's cool, and I forgot about it. But yeah, I just said, okay, like I still love you and I forgive you. I
Sure.
mean, it just like went through me, like I was an observer, but I didn't get a constant reaction. You know what I'm saying? And he apologized.
Right.
He still apologized to this day, but he was so hurt that he thought nobody loved him. No girl wanted to be with him, because that was when we first met. Like he had one girlfriend or something like that. Like nobody wanted to be with him. He was just so wounded and had such a bad perception of himself, especially from his mother.
Sure.
Like if he said I gave him more love in 2 weeks than his mother his entire life, that's deep. So
Absolutely.
yeah, we overcame that, and I was amazed at my reaction that I actually cried for him. I actually was like, wow, that completely must have come from like God, so higher level, like to feel that way for him at that point in time. I feel so sorry
Yeah.
for you. I'm so sorry that you had to resort to that.
Yeah. Well, also just the way that culture teaches us about sexuality is really distorted. And I do feel like women have a deeper connection with sexuality, and they have a deeper understanding for it in general, and from a general context. I believe that, if you look at the symbolism of kind of the vaginal area, it's kind of like a downward triangle. It's like the feminine triangle downward, and then a male erect is like a upward triangle. And so the masculine energy is always seeking, and the feminine energy is always going within. And so he wants to go within the feminine so that he can actualize and realize himself. And so women are inherently connected to that life force, that sexuality. That's why you guys are dynamos in terms of your sexuality, just in general, because you guys are the bringers of life. You're the closest thing, in my estimation, to God, physically embodied on this planet, is the feminine vehicle.
Right.
And so I have a tendency to believe that women have a deeper understanding for that. But I guess just in terms of me being in teacher mode, I think it's important for us to understand that on a cultural level, that sex is not something to demonize. I think sometimes certain things need to happen in our lives so that we can clear those distortions and those woundings. I mean, even for myself, being married 16 years, wasn't highly sexual in that relationship whatsoever. And in a lot of ways, I still had so much shame around sexuality and so much insecurity as a man. And I actually judged masturbation. And so, similar to the ways that you were celibate for 12 years, I stored a lot of my sexual energy as a man in my 20s into my 30s while I was putting on the mind of Christ. And so there can be value in holding that sexual energy, but also going through my transformational experience from 2013 on to now, and being alone and feeling that fucking dragon, that Holy Spirit, that wild sexual energy that was just blowing through my body. I gave myself many, many years to like learn how to make peace with myself as a sexual creative being, and not to judge myself, and to give myself the love through masturbation and through self-pleasure and through just really developing a very, very intimate relationship with Michael. And so I think it's important to like let people see and know that, you know, the path of like God and love and truth is about learning how to contextualize our experience and not pushing them away intellectually, but being able to learn how, you know, through compassion and through love, that we can ultimately embody the frequency of love as understanding. And so love is not this naivety. I mean, I truly believe that, you know, when I went into my experience, you know, of awakening in 2013, I was very much innocent. And my innocence, in a lot of ways, was lost by the profound pain and suffering that I experienced, and loss. You know, my whole identity had to be completely drained. You know, whether being an everyday father, or a husband, a man in the world. You know, I lost my job. You know, I lost my family. The twin flame experience, I lost her. You know, and then my mom died in 2017. And so like all of the feminine energy in my life was completely, you know, I had to be completely emptied, if you will, by God, so that I could become the true expression of God's love. And so if there's anything that I want to teach people or provide an example for people, it's for them to understand that love is not, love is not blind, and love is not rose-colored glasses, and love is not idealism. Love can be very, very practical. It can be very discerning and very, very assertive. And what I want to provide people the opportunity to see is that by developing our discernment, meaning learning how to see through our own distortions, so we could see ourselves clearly, and then therefore see the others in the world clearly, and then being assertive about our yeses and our nos in the world. So having both the assertiveness and the discerning energy, then we can rest comfortably and safe in our feminine energy, which is that God energy, that emotional energy that is the source of all life. And I ultimately believe that love is a frequency of understanding. Yes. And so we're only going to know love when we are discerning and assertive, and we operate consistently in an open heart.
Yeah. And going back to what you just said, like Nidal brought that to me. Like I didn't know much about sex. I didn't know about sex toys or lingerie or whatever. Like I was very just, I don't know, like sheltered from all that. And he, even though he's 23 years younger, he's an old soul, old soul. I mean,
Sure.
His knowledge, and he's well read, and he just tapped in. So he told me all of that, which makes me feel empowered as a woman. You know what I mean? Like to
absolutely
live your sexuality, to just be okay with it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that that's what I learned in terms of your dynamic. You and I are much, when I was speaking to that idea of one being the more spiritual and one being the more physical twin, I believe that you and I are more spiritual in a sense that we're more connected to the divine in the subtle energy in certain ways. But I think that the twin flame experience I had with the younger female and your younger twin, I believe that they are a little more focused on the material plane. And I think that's what I meant by us providing contrasts to each other, because I do think that is kind of that dynamic similarly, yet in opposite embodiments. But I think that you and I share that, whereas the mirroring that we experience, they have a tendency to maybe be a little bit more gifted, or to know their way around in the physical plane, if you will, a little bit better.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now that you phrase it that way, that makes complete sense. Yes.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, everything is a patternization with God. You know, so, and that was part of when I was going through my whole path. I would create this intentional process that I would say on my way to work every morning for X amount of years, and so. and it would speak to wanting to understand the structures and the patterns of the physical and spiritual dimensions of reality, and being able to really bridge these illusions of separation. And so I really see the physical world as the masculine energy and the spiritual realm as the feminine energy. But ultimately it's all one, right? And so our work is to learn how to like harmonize and open and just, to be willing to be able to nurture ourselves in loving allowance, so that we're always open to refining our consciousness. Our ability to show up in love is understanding,
1000%, Michael. You hit it right there. Yeah. Refining. Yeah. That's the magical word.
Right. And you can only do that if you're not judging yourself, if you're willing to learn how to cultivate the observer, to step into the observer role. Because look, personalities are the vehicle for the evolution of consciousness. I believe reincarnation is the mechanism for spiritual evolution. And so you came to be Marzena in this life. I came to be Michael. But beyond that identity that we're utilizing as a vehicle for God to collect experience and to grow and evolve in our understanding as love, we also have this observer that can watch everything. And that observer is eternal. And that's that portion of our soul that came down here to kind of help, lead, if you will. And so and that's primarily my message to people, is because when you can learn to move into the observer role, then you don't get so caught up in the identity. You realize, yes, the identity is necessary to operate in the world, but the identity is in logic and ideas they're not absolute. They're very, very relative.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's so hard to be an observer with your ego and your monkey mind going all the time, but it's very important.
Right. Yeah, and it's important to be able to understand that. It's because we love stories. As human beings, we love telling stories, and then we love getting lost in the story.
Yeah. Or repeating the same old hurtful wound story, it's just not good.
Right. Yeah, self-loathing and feeling sorry for ourselves and such. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, but this is it's been an interesting journey, and it's been interesting again. You and I had a conversation. It was probably 2015, so it's been nice to catch up with you and hear about your journey and share a bunch of like nuggets in terms of the spiritual path. I mean, let me take a look at my notes and see if there's some other things that I wanted to.
Yeah, every time, Nidal and I talk like probably 3 or 4 times a day on Skype or whatever, or WhatsApp, and and he always says, he always says, I love you like 10 times a day and I miss you. But he always says to me, it's not about the sex, which is great, like the best ever. But he's like, it's about just your energy, just sitting next to you. And it's just like the simple things, going for a walk, eating together, So yeah, that part is great, but it's our energy. Just I think when the show started, you said being at home with each other.
Yeah, that's absolutely it. Because I think when you're resting in love and you're able to rest in love with somebody who is also in a space of love, I think that ultimately that's true fulfillment. I think a lot of times human beings, we're externalizing our happiness. Oh, when I get this job, or when I get this car, or when I have this money, or when I, whatever it is, people are externalizing their happiness and their fulfillment and their peace. And the more that we learn how to cultivate that peace and that personal fulfillment in ourselves, then slowly but surely everything that we experience becomes a reflection of that fulfillment and that joy. And you guys having the opportunity to share a space of like unconditional love with each other, I think that is truly heaven on earth. That is truly the Garden of Eden. We have the ability to experience heaven on earth when we go inside of ourselves while on earth and continue to cultivate love, and real unconditional true love, and when I say unconditional love, it's not that you have to put up with everything, or that you have to, it's not a toxic love. It's just, it's the ability to operate from the observer and to know that everything is in right order, even if when it's not perfect, even when it's ugly, even when it's messy, even when the rage and the pain and the hurt and the limiting beliefs and the fear and the insecurity, even when all that is coming up, we're still operating in a space of grace. Grace is always pervading everything.
Everything. Yeah. Yeah, he taught me true love. And what is true love? Well, true love.
It's pretty simple, right?
Yeah, pretty simple.
Yeah.
You're not based on sex, not based on what you give me, not based on what I can give to you. You know what I mean? Not based on what you can buy me.
Yeah. You're not positioning for something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not you're not positioning something for something. There's not a game being played behind the scenes. The curtain's open and everything is revealed, and you see people for who and what they are, which is, hey, we want to love and we want to be loved, and life can be, I think, that simple.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and that's more than anything why I wanted to bring you onto this show, because I know the whole twin flame thing, and I'm not sure what I'm going to title this show yet, but I just wanted to give people a little bit more of an undistorted perspective on contrasting experiences and the fact that there is no perfect way to frame this, and that we don't. The last thing that we need to do is try to romanticize something like that. To try to intellectualize our happiness that's not the path that you and I are walking.
No, far from. Yeah, divine counterparts is a lot of people use that more these days than the twin flames. But from that article that I sent you, I read that in 2008. It just made my whole body shiver, and I was like, to me, it makes sense just to be created from one cell, one blueprint, and split, and then we have our different parts that we need to merge together. But everybody's got a different idea, but it's definitely not to be romanticized. It's not. That's not at all.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, no, it's more than anything. I think it just takes tremendous courage to be able to
face yourself, number one.
To face yourself, yeah, because it's love on steroids. It's what the way I explain is like you open up. It's like one thing to be in the driver's seat in your car driving, in God's universe, and then it's another thing to be dropped into the engine of God and to feel all of the pressure and all the pull and all the resistance and all of the work that it takes to actually experience life on a very fundamental way, experience love on a very fundamental level. And I feel like in a lot of ways my experience has been that. I mean, the amount of pressure and the pain and that I've experienced physically in order to really become a vessel for God's love and God's truth, and to be just radically authentic in every aspect of my life. It's been a very profound experience, but I think it's also providing me, I pray all the time about, having a beautiful, loving wife and relationship and sharing, and just continuing to be on my path, which is, to develop my clothing brand and then to utilize that financial freedom as a mechanism to allow me to get out in the world and then really do this show a lot more on a larger scale and to write some books down the road. But I see that only in the context of really having a beautiful wife and best friend and family and kids around me. That for me as a man in the world, that's what brings me joy. I mean, it's been one thing to be a mystic and to put on the mind of Christ and to step into my role as an artist in the world and a teacher. But on a very, very fundamental level, what makes me the most happy in this life is being a husband and a father. That really, truly is what drives my identity.
Yeah.
So.
And then I guess once again, divine timing. I mean, as much as you don't want to hear this, especially for us for 25 years, but it is what it is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no,
Acceptance leads to
I
success, you know. So
yeah, no, and I completely accept it. I accept my role in the world. I accept the journey that I've taken, and just continue to curate harmonious relationships with around me. Build new connections and new friendships that are preparing me for whatever's next in my life, and continue to be gritty and go and do work for a living that is not necessarily very fulfilling and doesn't feel aligned, but everything has its time and its place, and I know eventually that I'll have the platform to really serve on the highest level, and I know that my creativity is off the fucking charts, and my the things that I have to share with people are very, very profound, and I just need to continue to walk one step at a time, and slowly but surely I truly believe that I'm aligning myself with the divine, the very, very loving, healthy relationship and the lifestyle that I truly desire. And
yeah, you step in fully
that
into your power. That's the way I feel.
yeah, it's empowerment. Yeah, personal empowerment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's what it's all about. That self-actualization, all that is just personal empowerment. Is we empower ourselves to really be truly in our potential.
Yeah. And like in 2015, Nidal and I had a conversation, I think, and I said to him, like if I died tomorrow, I would be just so grateful that I actually experienced true love. So there's going back to that true love, that I experienced love it's in all of its potential.
Sure.
And
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the gift, right? It's not holding on to something for dear life. It's just embracing it fully in every moment.
yeah. And that was pretty profound. Like I've had some profound moments in my life, but that just like came through me. Like if I died tomorrow, I'll be so happy that I met you and I experienced this type of love, this frequency, and I'm just grateful to have you in my life.
Right.
And for the lessons,
You're
I'm
full.
grateful for the lessons.
Yes, absolutely. It's great. Well, I want to thank you for being on the show today, and this has been a beautiful conversation.
Thank you too, Michael. You definitely have put some seeds in my head. Profound knowledge, profound understanding of human condition. It's wonderful.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I know. That's one thing that I could always feel in your field, which is you just your level of sincerity is, to me, when I say God recognizes God, what I mean is when I can feel someone's just profound depth of sincerity, to me, that is truly God, because that is that is living conscientiously, that is living from that root of just being and just loving and just courageous, to be willing to just put down the intellectual armor and to just be. And I see that love in you, and that vulnerability, and that just that rawness. And so that's why I reached out to you, because I had never known anything about the whole twin flame framework until I came across you on Facebook, saw some of your posts about going to the airport and then him not, being able to get there, and how it broke your heart. And then just kind of sent me down the rabbit hole, because what I was experiencing, in terms of that depth of love and connection, was very, very similar. And it's been nice to remain, connected to you for over a decade now, and to really, I think, in a lot of ways, bring this full circle by giving ourselves a platform to share our unique and individual experiences with others. And I really feel like, this conversation, maybe my audience is small now, but at some point in the future, this episode is going to, really help a lot of people.
I feel the same way. I have a very good feeling about this, and it was necessary, to clarify the human condition, clarify what is love. What is love? You are love.
Right. That's it. Yeah. Love wanted to know itself in all ways possible. So it literally slowed down its frequency to create the illusion of a physical reality, and then the embodiment of individual portions of itself, so that it could collect itself. It could experience itself in all ways possible. That's all the universe is doing.
Yep.
And we get caught up in all of these black and white frameworks, because people are so busy trying to manipulate each other for positioning. But as you said, when you're in a space of love, you're not positioning for anything. You're not trying to control. You're not trying to manipulate. You're not. There's nothing that you need, because you already are what you need. You are love.
Yeah.
So when you already know your love and you live and you walk in your love, then you're not trying to. You don't need money or authority or a false sense of power or a position to fill anything. You're already full. There's no more. The game's over. Game is over. It's done. You're love. Now it's just, let's just live love.
Yeah.
And so many people are.
Yeah, go ahead.
So many people are still playing that game,
Yeah. Yeah. They're playing that game, and you can't throw me off my love game. Like, there's nothing you can say or throw at me that is going to throw me off my frequency.
Right. No, that's it. And that's part of integrity. That's part of like learning who you are and then learning how to operate consistently in that space. And that's the ultimate gift, right? I mean, that's the gift of, knowing that the only thing we take with us in this life is how we've loved. That's all we take with us. And
Exactly.
people will always, they're not always going to remember what you did, but they'll always remember how you made them feel.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I love you, and I thank you for being here. And you're
you, Michael. Thank you so
profoundly beautiful soul.
Thank you. Well, you're the mirror of me, so it's the same.
Yes, you are a gift to the world, my dear. And I thank you for being here. I thank you for sharing your love and being consistent. And I pray for you to continue to walk your path and to experience whatever it is that you came here to experience, and to fulfill your soul, and to continue to just curate more and more and more peace and more fulfillment and more joy in your life. And you absolutely deserve that.
So do you, and I pray for you too, that you find the right person to match your frequency and your desire to change the world and uplift humanity in all ways possible. Books, podcasts, TED Talks, whatever you do. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, we are here to make a big difference and leave a huge imprint. This is what I feel on my soul level. Like, we're
Absolutely.
leaving legacy, and it's not from the ego. It's legacy of love.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we're moving into a new time and space in on the planet. We're moving into from as I use this framework from the Law of One books, but we're moving from third density to fourth density, in the sense that we're moving from a space of self-awareness on this planet to a space of learning the lessons of love. So we're transitioning, I believe, into learning what true love actually is. And that's why I think so many of us are here on this planet right now trying to help in this transition. And that's why it's profound. It's fairly intense, is because humanity in many ways is beginning to wake up to who they are as love. And that's and you definitely need a lot of messengers to push that divine agenda,
Yeah, exactly.
So thank you for being here. I love you. I appreciate you. Until next time, my friends, stay thirsty for life. I love you.